All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. This time around, episode number 81. Man, here we go. Less than 20, that's 19 now, 19. And then it is episode 100. We're thinking that's going to be in January, so we're getting ready for that. But before we get ready for that, we've got something going on today. We're doing another In the Bivouac, and this time we're going international. Pre-recording this, it's 9 p.m. here in San Diego. And we're going international all the way across the pond. We're going to be talking to Willem Avenant bright and early in the morning, 6 a.m. for him. But we're going international. We're talking Rally Raid. Willem been working on a few different projects, a few different things going on, including the Karoo Roadbook Camp, some electronic roadbook holders. So absolutely excited to have him on the show and talking a little bit more about rally on the other side of the world. Get some of that insight. What do those guys do over there versus what we are doing over here? So absolutely excited. I hope everybody's been keeping up. We're counting down. It's almost go time for the Kota Rally. We're about, what is that? About a week away. August 1st was the last day to get in on that one. So looking forward to seeing how this shakes down over the next few weeks. And then don't forget, we do have at the end of September, Nora 500. And then we're also getting into the Baja Rally at the beginning of Rally Month. So stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff coming up. But in the meantime, before we get to all of that, let's get to Willem. Willem, there?
Yeah, man. Hi, Victor. How are you?
Doing well yourself, sir?
Yeah, good, man. Good morning.
Yeah. First of all, yeah. Thank you for waking up at super early to get on the horn with us.
No, man, it's absolutely a pleasure and a privilege. I have been listening to your podcast for so long, so I'm honored to be on it, man. And right off the bat, before we get into anything, I just want to thank you for going through all the trouble and effort to do this. I know it's a hard, selfless, it's a tough job to do, and I really appreciate it from everybody that I know in the rally community. They're very big fans and listeners of yours, so thanks for doing this. Thanks for bringing it to us all, and thanks for making a platform where we can share our experiences and learn from each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure, and I'm having fun. So so it works.
Great, man.
Nice. All right. So 6 a.m. we were talking a little bit about that earlier. You're in the winter right now, right?
Yeah, we're smack bang in the winter. If you guys hear some chickens in the background, just excuse them. They're busy waking up. Southern Hemisphere winter isn't as bad as you guys know in the US, but it's still harsh. Our houses aren't really insulated, and it wasn't built for the cold. It was built for the heat. So we get we get below freezing most nights. But again, it's such a big country. It depends where you are. So we live up in the middle in the country, in the Karoo. I actually spend my time between here and New Hampshire, so I'm both sides. And we live here at the riding. When I went up to, we had a training ride with Skylar and Mason in Utah in March. And I could not believe how similar southern Utah is to where I'm living. So to give somebody an idea, the closest thing would be southern Utah. Big mountains, scrubland, stuff like that. So that's pretty much the Karoo.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is... Oh, there's got to be some climates. What's your guys' heat up there? When it gets... A hot day is what out there?
Hot day would get over 100 degrees. I'm thinking in Celsius, so say 40 Celsius is a hot day. Okay. So I think that's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, in the summer.
Let's see, 40. Good old Google here. Let's do the math. 104. That's not bad.
Yeah,
so
and it's a dry heat. It's not it's semi-desert. I would say Weather-wise, we can be related to Arizona.
Okay. So that's not too bad. Yeah. Cold enough in the winter,
No.
but yeah. So good. So you guys can ride pretty much year round.
Yep, and that's a really big reason. I used to live in Cape Town. I grew up in this town where I live now in Maritzburg, and big reason moving up here is, when you grow up here, you know everybody, and it's not as it would be in Utah or Arizona, where you have vast tracts of open land. In South Africa, unless it's a national park, all the land is privately owned. So riding is challenging. I mean, you can ride on public roads, and there's tons of them. Mm-hmm. But when you want to get into the gnarlier stuff and you want to do some real training, then you kind of have to have access to private land. And growing up in a small farming community where all the land is privately owned, every single farmer. The Karoo Road Boot Camp, for instance, is 100% dependent on access by the farmers. But it creates a scenario for me where I can ride pretty much, for 5, 6, 7 days nonstop and never have to worry about running out of trails. So I've been very privileged and blessed to be in a scenario where I can just ride. The town itself has got a commonage, which is about 4,000 hectares. I don't know acres wise, but that's thousands of acres. Mm-hmm. And anybody can just go and ride on it, so I can get from my garage, I can just get on the bike and I can immediately get riding. I don't have to trailer the bike anywhere or do anything like that. So that's a big plus for this area.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then it makes a big difference because everybody like you said, everybody knows everybody, so they understand what you're doing, and then the respect for their land and their space, which is awesome. I mean, that's
100%. If I ride wherever, you see the farmer, and obviously you have to arrange before the time, like, they need to know you're there and everything. But, if you find somebody on the road, because it's a small community, everybody's like, oh, how's it going with this plan? Or how's it going with that? Or how did it go in that race? So it's a very, it's a nice feeling because everybody knows everybody, but people are supportive of it, and they're actually interested in it, and we had this year at the Karoo Road Boot Camp, we had literally people from all over. We had people from India, people from the US, people from Zambia, people from the UK, and the farmers love it because, they get exposure to all of these bikers from all over the world. So it's always nice to see who's going to kind of jump out and be there. And then the farmers like kind of exposing people, because I also find in most cases farmers like to share the nature. Like, they're farmers because they love nature, right? They love the expanse and the beauty of it. So most farmers I know like to share that. They want to share it with people. They don't want to hog it for themselves. But in South Africa, there is obviously, I mean, as in the US, there's this huge debate about access to private land. I mean, it's massive. So it is all private land, and it always makes it tricky. It takes one problem, as you guys said, was there one guy misbehaving, and then, you lose the access to that place forever. So it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's out here, it's in the name of preserving the land. But, and then I go out and, I'll be mountain biking or hiking out there, and I'm walking by all of these people that pick up their dog droppings and put them in a bag and then just leave the bag there. Mm-hmm. I go, wait a minute. So you just, Look, I'm like, okay, never mind.
Look, I think if we start getting into that, we're going to get completely sidetracked by the dog guys. But
all right, but before we get back,
I just want to quickly add to that, because it's something that I'm definitely not an ecologist, right? But the debate as to sensitivity of land and motorbikes, right? Mm-hmm. I live in this area, the Karoo is it's a highly sensitive area. We have the scrubs take 5, 6, 7, 8 years to grow properly. Mm-hmm. Further down to the Tankwa, we have the Tankwa Rally, that same thing, there it's even worse because there's almost no rain, and every year I am amazed because, I live here. I love it. I don't want to mess up the environment. And I have for years had thought that, look, bikes are super destructive until I started doing these road boot camps. And if we put 20 bikes through an area, again, not tearing it up, but riding through an area, if I come back the next year, Victor, I can't see that there were bikes. In many instances, I can't even see tracks. So I think a lot of the times we overestimate how much damage we're causing. And maybe there's a biker out there that's an ecologist or somebody that's better qualified than you and me that can maybe do a study for us or just look into it. Because this idea that bikes just mess up the environment, I don't subscribe to that, because I see it with my own eyes. Yes, if I stand there and I do a burnout, then next year there might be an indent in the soil, but and there'll be some erosion. But I think you must put 500 bikes through a place before you really start causing damage. It would be good to get some data on that. Sorry, that was a sidetrack.
No,
that's the dog's fault.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, and you can see it. I mean, and that's something that we've discussed when I was privy to the Baja Rally stuff. Is that was stuff that was discussed with land management and the protection agencies down in Mexico, very specifically. The environmental impact that rallies have, and very, very different. I mean, it was interesting. They had one of the premier racing organizations that organizes the majority of the Baja events down there was in protected land, and the Environmental Protection Agency in Mexico sent somebody to survey the damage, and I guess they ended up getting stuck and had to stay out there for like 2 days. Abandon the vehicle, like it was really bad, and so they got a really good idea of how badly, and it's every form of motorsport is a little bit different, but I think of everything, rally is going to be the one with the least impact.
Yeah, definitely. Saying that from my side, bikes,
yeah,
like the cars and the trucks. I mean, that's a different story from that's like plowing a field. Yeah. But if it comes to bikes, I still need to see like something. I mean, obviously on a big rally, but again, that's after 100 bikes has been over it. And then there's cars and trucks, So I think, but yeah, those trophy trucks is a different kettle of fish.
I mean, yeah, it's basically a 1,000 horsepower tractor with four shovels at a time, and now they're all-wheel drive, so it's even worse. But so let's rewind it a little bit. Let's talk Karoo Road Book Camp. How did that get started? What is that about?
So, I do a lot of different things for, let's say, compensation. And the Karoo Road Book Camp was my kind of giving back idea for the rally community. Obviously, there's a cost to it. It's not free, but it's not a venture that I run for profit. And the reason that came about is because that my passion is getting more people into rally. That's my, I wouldn't say my life goal, but that makes me happy. It makes me happy to go to a race and see somebody there that I introduced to rally. It gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling. And the Karoo Road Book Camp started literally as a group of friends that we prepared for the Kalahari Rally. We were Team KTM Cape Town, basically, and I thought, well, if we want to have a real shot at doing well at the Kalahari Rally, we should have a mini 3-day roadbook race between us as team members for training and a shakedown of our bikes and stuff, and I took it upon myself to build the road books. That actually came out just before, and then with COVID, the race got cancelled, and we were like, look, we're not going to cancel our training because we've put way too much into this. We're still going to do it. And we were just a small group of friends that got together to do it. And then that kind of snowballed from there. The next year, I think we were 20 or over 20 people. And basically it became this thing where you can come and ride a race. We do everything. We have timing, we have tracking, we have time cards, and it's basically a rally simulation so that you don't go to a rally and have all the stress and the worry about a race. Or the cost. And the Sonora Rally does the same thing. I was there in February kind of helping them out, and I'm super, super impressed with that scenario because they run the same thing. It's like I don't have to stress and worry about racing. I just have to learn how to navigate. And that's how it got started, and obviously grew from there. It's definitely become my baby.
Nice. And I mean, it's cool. So it started off as just kind of a training and then just, like you said, just continued to grow from there.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's to get people into the sport. That's like I said before, that's my big thing is I want people to, like we've had people at the camp that never goes on and race because it's just not for them. But I rather have them figure that out here or anywhere, than at a race where they've spent thousands of dollars to be at and then realize they don't like it. But there's way more guys that absolutely love it and just, they go gangbusters after something like that because they're so motivated and they're so ready. And then you're hungry for racing, then you want to go and do a rally race.
Yeah, I think once people get over the hurdle of the whole navigation thing, and once they start looking at these boxes and look at the tulip notes and can just translate that instantly into what it is, I think then it opens up like, okay, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But if you've never tried to navigate and you're looking at these things, you're going, this makes no sense.
It's intimidating. And I think the way that I explain it to guys is like, this is a treasure hunt or geocaching for grown-ups on motorbikes. Yeah. What better sport is there in the world? Like,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, and it's been a reoccurring theme is like, it brings a whole nother element to the competitiveness. You've seen the Baja races and you've seen all of that stuff. And we've talked about it a lot on the show. And it's like, it's sprint racing versus this now becomes more of a chess game. It's not checkers, it's
definitely
chess. You have to be able to navigate.
It's the great equalizer for the sport. Like I would put it in terms of if it wasn't for rally, I would never even probably be into motorcycling. I mean, I grew up with Dakar and loving that and wanting to one day do it. And I'm not a competitive racer. I'll never be a professional racer, but I like going fast on a motorbike. And what I discovered through the rallies that I've done and competed in is that if you can manage to be consistent, I classify myself as a fairly average rider, but if I can finish every stage, then I will be somewhere on the finishers list, and more often than not, you're probably in the top 15, top 10, depending on the size of the race, just by finishing consistently every day. And once that kicks in, once you realize that I don't have to be the world's fastest rider, I just need to be navigating and I just need to be consistent. It's crazy. I had a scenario at one of the Kalahari rallies where there was a guy, I didn't at the time know that he used to be an old South African racing champion, and this guy tore past me every morning, flat out. And I looked at him and I was like, I'll never catch this guy. But I just carried on plugging along. And then every day at around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the same bike would come past me again. And I'd be like, man, that guy, came past me at like early this morning, and now he's coming past me again. So technically I'm ahead of him because somewhere he got there really badly lost. And that kind of things, like, I love it. That I think now with Dakar, it's become way more of a chess game. I think for our average guys, it's still consistency and navigation. If you can be consistent and navigate, you can compete.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, and it's because it's just that much more effort. Now you're putting, if you're riding fast and you're missing notes and you're missing waypoints, you're going to have to continue to ride fast. You never get that chance to relax. And okay, that's cool for day one and maybe day two, But as the rally wears on, you're physically overexerting yourself every single day by doing that. Where if, take a second, sit down, clean navigation, and then go when you can. I mean, you get opportunities, right? We know you can see, it tells you right there on the road book how far it is to the next tulip, so
those golden nuggets because people always were like, when strangers ask me like, oh, so you're into rally, and he's like, it's super fast and dangerous and stuff. I was like, look, and all they see is that helicopter shot of Mason or Ricky or whoever going 160, and I'm like, look, those are the golden nuggets every rally racer lives for. But that is a few blocks on a scroll of hundreds of tulips.
Yeah.
That's not the race. And I think even in the public's eyes, or people that's not into rally, that's a big misconception. They think we all sit there flat out all day long. And it's like, those are the moments you live for, when there is a chopper to catch it. But the rest of the time, I mean, it's fairly slow. I mean, the US races, I think, are much faster. I mean, US racing, because of your background in the sprint races and the hare and hounds and the Bajas, definitely the US is kind of, it's like when you cock a gun, you have a magazine full of extremely talented riders that's going to get into the rally racing scene, and they're just going to blow the world away just because you have the numbers as far as people, and you have the racing experience, because racing in the US is hard. It's tough, so it's a different mindset of racing that doesn't exist. I mean, of course, we have tough races in South Africa. Of course, there's tough races in Europe and Australia and all of that. But it's more the culture. Your culture of racing is that flat out sprint racing. And, there's no complaining. You just the race, that's it. If you're not up for it, and that's something that takes a lot of mindset. So your rallies obviously is also much, much faster than many other rallies, because the Karoo Road Book Camp, for example, is more like an enduro, not that it's an enduro. I don't want to scare people, but it's all about making it more technical to slow down the entire thing. The Tankwa rally we have out down in the Tankwa, I mean, even I got at some point, I was like, man, I need a two-stroke for this. And I think you mentioned Kota. I'm very excited. I am coming to Kota. I haven't competed, but I am getting the feeling that, Kota is kind of also going the more technical, slower route rather than the flat-out route.
Yeah. Mike proudly says that. This isn't for the 690s.
So then I think that's fine. The most interesting thing for me is that every rally has got its own personality, and I've realized that the word rally is almost too broad, because every single event is completely unique and completely different. So I'm very excited for the Kota. I'm also doing Baja 6 days and Sonora, so I'm calling it like the US rally season. I want to come out there and see how you guys do it, and hopefully bring more South Africans over. While we on that topic, must give a massive shout out to Freedom Rally Racing. They've really come onto the scene this year with a bang. And
hey guys, what's going on? Super quick break in the podcast episode. I hope you guys are enjoying. I just wanted to mention really quick, I've been using the Anchor.fm platform for all of the podcast distribution and everything, and it is very, very simple. So if you guys have been thinking about getting into your own podcast, doing your own thing, talking about your own adventures and what you've got going on your side of the planet, it is very, very simple. All you got to do is go down to your app store, whatever that may be, if it's Android or if it's on Apple, download the Anchor app, or you can also go to anchor.fm, create an account, and get started. It is super, super simple. So anyway, with that being said, back to the episode.
They're really helping me out big time. So Freedom, thank you so much for your help and support. And they have a vision, and they wanna be like the best support you can get in North America, and they're definitely going for it. So they're also going to play a role into making rallies more accessible for people who want to ride. So hopefully I'll see all of you guys there at all of these races and have a good chat and a good laugh and a good ride together. I'm super excited about it. I've been going through the paperwork for Kota. Man, it's a lot to do.
Mike runs a very tight ship on that rally, which is awesome. I mean, he needs to, but then again, he also broke through so many barriers to actually be able to do an event, stateside. Mm-hmm. Where they don't know, mm-hmm. and I'm happy he did it. But you mentioned something that's interesting in bringing more of the South African crowd over to these rallies. What is rally like over there? Is everybody into rally raids or what's kind of the?
Okay, so it's growing. I would say it's growing rapidly. It's growing at the speed I would say that rally is growing in the US. I'm going to give you a quick kind of background to what it looked like in South Africa. It is an obscure sport anywhere, right? I mean, even in the US, you tell somebody I'm into rally and they think you're going to Sturgis, So you have to be clear what you do. So I would say the rally scene in South Africa started with a race called the Amageza, and the Amageza was run very, very. It was the old school rallies, and it really shifted boundaries. It went into Botswana, and you literally the kind of concept of racing between wild animals. You literally raced where there was lions. Like if you broke down, they were going to eat you. And Alex organized that, and he did there was a lot of up and downs in the organizing, but the point is he did it, right? And he did it for many years fairly successfully, to the point that I think at one of the Amagezas there were over 100 bikes, which for South Africa is just mind-blowing, right? I mean, people came from overseas for these races. Then Alex unfortunately passed away in a gyrocopter accident, and rally kind of not died, but there was no rally. There was no roadbook rally in South Africa. Then a guy called Garth Roberts took it up to do the Kalahari rally. And he did, I think, 3 Kalahari rallies. I did 2 of them. And it was very successful. It was really tough. It was proper 6-day racing in the sand. And I had there were guys from all over. There was a few guys that's done, I think the one guy did 10 Dakars. And he was like, you know what, this is way tougher than Dakar, but it was only 6 days versus 10. And the main reason why it was tougher is because we didn't use rally comps or ERTF or anything. So you didn't know where your waypoints were. You had waypoints on a GPS, and you had to get them. But, it takes a lot of planning and organizing to figure that one out if it's just on a normal E-Trex or something like that. So that was the, let's say, chapter 2 in South African rally history. And then between both of those, so those were the big multi-stage day rallies. And then there's another smaller race called the Tankwa Rally, which is, like I mentioned before, it's a bit more of an enduro type thing. It's tough. It is really tough. It's 3 days, but it's tough. It's hard. So I would say that the scene here, the rally idea here, is definitely been up to now to make it as difficult as possible. And now with the next kind of evolution, we have the Chrono Rally that's run by Sean Creel. We've done the road books for the Chrono Rally. And Sean's approach is a bit different. He's like, no, let's get people into it. Let's not make it as hard as possible. Let's try and open it up for people with 890s and 790s and 700s and 690s and whatever. Let's get more people involved. So it's a 3-day event. It's called the Chrono Rally. It's literally this week. I'm busy packing right now for it. And that's going to be, we'll see. It's in the Northern Cape of South Africa, so it's going to be phenomenal because it's almost, we have it's called Namakwa land, and it's an area that's famous for its flowers, and the flower season starts right now. So you have everything. You've got fast, wide open roads. You've got coast. You've got river. So you do 3 massive loops in the north of South Africa. So that's exciting, and that's now the current evolution where we are with competitive racing. As far as motor, and I have to be very clear, motorbike rally is concerned. We have a lot of off-road races and rallies, not so much rallies as races on road books for cars, but I'm focused on bikes. So that's a quick recap of the history of rally racing in South Africa.
Nice. So it's just been in chapters, and I from those rallies, the last one you mentioned is I like the idea behind that is, obviously we've been talking about it, is how big that middleweight adventure bike class is, and the need for them to do something else. Here they're entering them in hare scrambles, and there's really no other big events that they can do with them, the KTM Adventure Rally and stuff like that. But as far as the most popular bikes, you see them everywhere now, especially the Tenere 700, which, I think definitely bought into or took a chunk out of KTM's market share, but
big chunk, yeah.
They need more. They need more to do. And I think I think they're on the right track by trying to get those guys involved.
Definitely. And I mean, the adventure market is so big, Victor. I mean, you and I were talking about it earlier, but there's and I think that's going to be almost the overlooked side of the sport that so far we've been focusing on, let's call it athletes, but if you look at the pool of people with adventure bikes and you just think about how many potential future riders can come out of that, into rally, it's huge. And that's why I really think that, we're at the cusp of, I wouldn't say an explosion, but definitely we're at the start of a new phase in worldwide rally. I mean, even if you look at Dakar's entries, it's never been as high as it is now. People are clamoring to go to Dakar and do these big races because the sport is growing. It's there. So, yeah.
And it's just a matter of time. And then not only that, but finding the people, connecting the people that want to get into it with the people that already know and kind of know the path. And what do you think is kind of a entry barrier? Like, what have you identified something that keeps people back?
Definitely. Yeah, no, look, I think because I want to expose people to it, the barriers to entry is always something I look at. And I look, it's to me, it's 2 things. It's money, because, rally is expensive. We're not going to even discuss that. It's an expensive sport, and unless you are prepared to part with some dollars, you're gonna struggle to enter an event. So it is expensive, but I mean, famously, I've spoken to a lot of people that they're not well-off people, but they're big in the rally raid. But the sacrifices those guys make, how much harder they work to earn that extra money, it's insane. So we can't get away from it. It's expensive. If I really want to do it, I'm going to work my ass off to be able to afford it. That's basically that part of it. But that's a big barrier to entry. And so part of that expense normally is your navigation equipment. And I've been really working hard on bringing that down. So that's a separate point or discussion that I'll touch on now. So that's the one entry. And then the other barrier, I think, is that people are a little bit wary or scared of rally because they think it's extremely, extremely difficult, and fair enough, it is difficult. But like you and I were chatting earlier, it's about just making the connection that it's challenging, but it's not undoable. So a lot of people that once they understand what rally raid is, they're like, whoa, no, I'm not going to take a chance on that. That's way too difficult. And I think so those to me are the two barriers of entry, which if we're going to start seeing events like I think you mentioned that you're looking at planning something that's going to, be a bit more adventure friendly, but expose people to rally, or like what we do with the training camps. That's one thing to get over that hurdle, and then the next hurdle is the cost. And there I see the digital roadbook revolution to be the answer.
Yeah. You mentioned, and it is a very, very good point. So let's talk a little bit about it, because you've been kind of spearheading a setup for digital roadbook navigation.
Definitely, yeah. Look, it's one of my big passions as well, is the digital roadbook, for various reasons. But it started with getting more people into it. I literally had a guy on a 1290. And I literally put Rally Navigator on his phone, and I just sent him on a liaison, and this guy loved it. And I realized that, we have all the tech at our fingertips, and I like a bit of tech. I'm definitely not like a professional, but I like gadgets and techie stuff. So I embarked on this thing of saying that, what can I do? How can I build a digital roadbook that is affordable to most people? And that was the key. That was the thing for me is, when I bought my first rally bike, I was so intimidated by all the wires and the ICOs and the this and the that and the different connections, now, I mean, to put it in perspective, to find a 4-pin or a 3-pin M8 connector in South Africa, and we're a fairly advanced country, is hard. I don't walk into a shop and find an M8 connector. So, you have to bring all of these components together. And every time I go to a race, and okay, so I'm now interrupting myself, but that was another one, is roadbooks break, right? They break all the time. And the few times that I've done well on a stage, the roadbook breaks and I end up having to scroll with my hand. And I've had friends that had really, really bad crashes because they were scrolling with their hands because the switch broke. So I was just like, this thing is a good idea, but this is not like, this can be better. This can be way better. So it was a combination of all of that stuff, and just say, like, how can we just make this easier? And I've been working with Rally Navigator, so I knew about the Rally Navigator app, which I pretty much was only the start of it. I've been working with a lot of people with apps and software, which I'll tackle the hardware part before we get into the software part. But so the key was just to find something that is durable, like super durable, with a bright as possible screen that you can use as a roadbook. And in the US, you guys have got Tower One, which I think is extremely good. I got to use it and ride with it. And I think it's great that we have different people on different continents spearheading this thing. I know Tony from RNS is also working on it. I took a different approach, and my approach was that because I want to make it cheaper, I don't want a one-use device. I want something that I can use for everything or for different things. But as a average Joe, a guy on the street, if he has to part with $1,000, it needs to be something that he can use for different things. And that's why we looked at a more kind of not, and I clearly say that, our device it's for training. I race with it. I feel that it's race worthy, but I'm not selling it or I'm not marketing it as a race device. I'm marketing it as a training device. And if you feel like it's good enough to race with, that's your personal choice. I race with it because I want to prove it can be done. Mm-hmm. So it's a tablet, a 7-inch tablet, really hard. I've had a very severe crash, which I broke my ankle with. It put me out for a year now. I've drowned the bike. And I've crashed multiple times, not just the one time. I've had the bike underwater twice. My original tablet that I had bought or built to get ready to test, we're still using that. We're still physically running that 2 years later. So I am convinced that it's good enough for people to use. And with that, it's an entire ecosystem, because we've got the tablet, and then we've got the Bluetooth remote, and we've got the actual mount to mount it on your bike. And what makes it super fun is, I can put it on any bike. I can put it on the 2-stroke. All I need is a battery and a handlebar, and that's it. And I think that's what's going to drive. Not from my side. It doesn't have to be our tablet. That's not the point. The point is, all of a sudden, if the tech is there, that if we have a screen and we have battery life, anybody can ride a road book. And that is super exciting to me. That's where the real revolution is going to be. And even in making the road books, so the tablet we're running is also a GPS. So, what I say to people is, like, if you're going to spend money on a Garmin, rather buy a tablet. Again, it doesn't have to be our tablet, a tablet, and use it as a GPS and as a road book. And it also plays a role in making events cheaper, because all of a sudden I don't have to print thousands of scrolls. It makes it safer, because I can now make real-time changes in the night before. And it also, people are like, yeah, but it's going to break, and what if it breaks? Then I'm stuck. It's like, if you crash to the point that you're going to destroy your road book, which is in the middle of your bike, you would have destroyed a paper road book, And then people is like, no, but I can take the scroll, I can take a piece of paper and I can ride with it and I can look. So you would know. I mean, it's almost impossible to ride with a paper scroll in your hand. But let's say you get that done. To me, the benefit of an electronic road book is that if you're allowed to do that with paper, you can just load the PDF on your phone. And if your digital road book breaks, at least you've got a phone as a backup, But that's a hardware side. Sorry, I'm ranting, but that's my feeling about it.
Well, and and to be fair, the devices have gotten better. I mean, it's not like they haven't really gone backwards. So the waterproofing, the vibration proofing, the standard, that kind of thing, the testing that they're doing on them has improved. So
definitely,
I agree with you in that. Yeah, I mean, you can, and I've seen it happen. I mean, I've seen guys at the start of a stage where they had taken a spill, and the worst part about it is it's not when it's broken so bad that you're asking to see if anybody's got an extra road book holder. It's when it's tweaked just enough to not work properly. So the advanced switch, the motors work, but then it still won't advance because there's a little bit of pressure on it and the belt or the O-ring just slips. So
I went through I think it was one of the Kalahari's, in one race over 6 days. I went through 3 road books, and it's just like, come on, man. Give me a break. So, there's always something. A lot of guys swear by MIG-Tech. They say that it's because I'm using F2R. It's kind of a running joke. I guess it's the KTM Husky debate. But maybe MIG-Techs are better, but I'm on the digital now. That's my thing.
Yeah. No, and or wait until Aurora Rally gets into the mix on that one. Their roadbook holders are gnarly, but we'll see. But it doesn't matter. They're going. I mean, we already know the major events are all going to work to transition to electronic roadbooks. That's
definitely
how
and I think So if we put the hardware side, let's say, okay, we all agree that the hardware is out there, whether it's been built or not yet, or doesn't matter who manufactured it, the hardware is on par. There's good enough hardware. The biggest challenge, and it's a big debate in Dakar right now, is the screen. I'm happy with our screen. You know, I most people go on and like it's 1,000 nits in the sunlight. Yes, it has a little bit of a glare at 12 o'clock in the middle of the sun, but you know, a real roadbook also has a glare at 12 o'clock in the sun, and it's that thing where you just make peace with it and you deal with it, because that's what we have at the moment. I do believe that somewhere, like definitely the screen that we're running is the best screen that I have. We've tested all of the different devices, and this is the brightest screen out there that is commercially available. That to me is a done deal. I do believe that in the future somebody is going to come up with almost something like a Kindle screen, you know, something that would be really like ink, you know, that gives us that next step. But that we don't, nobody has that yet. We don't have it. Once that comes, you know, that's going to even up the hardware game much, much more. Mm-hmm. But stepping away from the hardware side, I think the next big challenge, and that's what everybody's waiting for, is the software side. You know, can we get Rallycomp or whoever to come to the party and create something where we all use the same thing? And unfortunately, I think that's where, you know, everybody's waiting to see what Dakar is doing. ERTF as a program. I know Noob is working on a program. So we'll see. I think the ecosystem, if we can get everybody to work together, I think that ecosystem can further rally. You know, it can further the sport because it'll make it easier for everybody. The problem that I foresee at the moment is that everybody's tugging in different directions. You know, people, if all of these major players can come around the table, maybe it's something that you and I should try and arrange, Victor, but if we can get all of these guys around the table and say, hey, let's pool our resources, let's create a rally ecosystem that we all use. Mm-hmm. Man, I mean, we will see the sport explode. But at this point, everybody's tugging in different directions. Yeah. And I think that's the strongest ecosystem will survive, and that's going to, but that competition is putting us back 4 or 5 years. So we'll see. I'm working with a guy in Portugal. I believe it's Portugal. The app is called Terra Pirata. And we've been testing it now. We're actually going to have 5 or 6 chrono riders riding it at the chrono, and I'll give you some feedback after that. But, you know, there's some real potential there. Really, really enjoy it. And he's really made it like an ecosystem. You know, you can load a GPX onto a server, and it turns the GPX into a roadbook almost automatically. You need to make the roadbook first. But you don't load a PDF, you load a GPX. And that changes a lot. You know, you've got a lot of the integration that you would have with most of these devices you have already in the app. So, but, you know, he's one of how many people having all of these projects. So I wish, my dream is that we can get everybody around the table.
Yeah. And you know, for the sake, like the organizers and everybody, if everybody is on the same page and there's a standard to it, and not that you want to dictate how an event is ran or anything else, but what we want, or what we would, the wish list. And the very first thing is that from a customer experience side of it, and when I say customer, I mean somebody that's new to the sport, that's looking to get into it, that the experience is kind of standardized, and they know what the road books are going to be like, more or less, right? You know, if it's, you know, if they say, okay, you know what? Okay, well, for right now, Rally Navigator is going to be the way to go. A lot of people already use Rally Navigator, but that's going to be the standard, because Tulip is another program that's been up and coming over here. I don't know if you guys use it over there. And yes, you can make a road book with it, but is it the advanced tool that Rally Navigator can be? I don't feel it's there yet. It could be there yet, or it could be getting there. But if everybody just kind of picks that standard, and then we kind of move forward from there, I think it will be good.
Definitely.
And
it will. And it's like a real opportunity that we have because we're at this cusp of the digital revolution, that this is now the time for us to do it, but yeah, it's interesting to listen to all the different parties. But, you mentioned Rally Navigator. I think we should also just, give the guys at Rally Navigator a massive shout out. I mean, those guys put in so many hours. You guys that make road books that's using the new Rally Navigator, as it Rally Navigator 2, I guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's a game changer. So, and I chat with them every now and again over email if we pick up a bug or something. But I mean, geez, these guys put in so much time, so much effort, and the idea of having an open rally GPX, it's revolutionary. So from my side, if it wasn't for Rally Navigator, I wouldn't be making road books, without a doubt. So those guys it's phenomenal what they do for the sport and just in general. So shout out and thank you to Rally Navigator developers. You guys rock.
Yeah, Mike Shirley,
so
and I know
it's really cool.
I know Peckham's got his hands into that one too, but yeah, and absolutely agree. I mean, you would think it's such a simple program, but it allows you to be as complicated as you want to be with road books. If you want to go full send, decorated with everything, I mean, just throw everything at it. You have it at your, right at your fingertips. And that they made it now where you can use it where it's not 100% dependent on an online connection.
Exactly.
Is absolutely huge. I mean, just in time for Starlink to be set up. I know Baja Rally and specifically Lost in Baja's got that Starlink set up. So yeah, that makes it easier now. But in previous years, it was like you would hope you would have a great internet service, even for something as simple as like, I just need to make a liaison for tomorrow. And that's not going to happen because, it's, the internet's really spotty. It's not working. It's taking forever to load the map, all of that stuff. But yeah,
the new one is a game changer.
Yeah, for sure.
So I just want to touch on something because, it's early morning, so the mind sometimes a bit foggy. But one of the questions you asked earlier about how rally is different, I will say, and that's something that I really stood out for me when I was there now, is that the way that the at least the road books that I've done and seen in the US and ridden in the US compared to the road books in South Africa is very different. And the main difference is you guys put just the necessities on, right? And the kind of the theory behind that is that it's safer because you have less tulips. On this side, and it's just a cultural thing, I guess, we try and put in as much, like every side road, every gate, every this, every that. You make the road book as complicated as possible because you want the guy to kind of be looking all the time and be confused. And it was something that being exposed to that on the US side, I think definitely changed my style of road book making because the safety concern is a very valid point. If I have to turn only in 20 Ks, I might as well just put the tulip that's a right turn in 20 Ks on and not put the 5 crossroads in the 20 Ks in there because they're not relevant. Mm-hmm. So I would say as a style, the US road books are it's more minimal and kind of gives you more important information, where the road books we have this side, and again, it can change. That's why I love the sport, because you learn every time I go and do a road book in a different country, a different continent, you learn how they do it. Mm-hmm. Here it's definitely busier. It's a busier road book. But then again, that comes with experience. If you talk to any experienced rally rider, they disregard those notes anyway, and they just go and they mark what's the important ones. Mm-hmm. So I guess we give you more work.
Yeah.
South African road books are more work, but definitely the idea of the safety thing is something that grabbed my attention, because I spoke to Skylar about it, and I think to Mason as well, and they're like, why would you want to look down 5 times if you need to look down once? And that makes complete sense. So I really like that idea of it.
Yeah, how they space it out a little bit. And so there's a few things with that, right? So I changed my studio around here, and so I'm literally staring at a road book that it's stage 2 from the 2017 Baja Rally, and you're looking at, I literally stare at this road book, and what we were talking about earlier, those golden nuggets, the ones where it's like, okay, this is a section that I'm going to get a chance to really open up the bike and really ride fast for a very long period of time.
It just gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, man.
Yeah. And so, I'm looking around and it's hard to spot, it's not because a lot of the notes are less than a kilometer between them, or right at a kilometer, or there's a couple that are, right off bat that are like 6 kilometers. Okay. That's a little bit more of a ride, but the main, I think that what I'm really getting at is that either way, this road book or a road book over there is going to look intimidating to the first person, the first time you see one. But once you're there, once you take your first note and you go, okay, well, this is the starting line. Oh, okay, well, 850 meters in, I'm going to come up to a fork in the road. Once you're at the fork in the road, the note makes sense. And I think that maybe people are used to seeing things on a map, so then they look at the road book and they go, yeah, this is way too much. But it's like, I guess, like many things in life, right? We're just overthinking it and not realizing that it's right in front of you. And what you're saying, I agree with too, is like, it's easier to ride faster and safer when you're keeping your eyes up and then not constantly looking down. And constantly looking down means you could miss a detail. You could literally ride right by it and not even notice it because you're paying attention to the wrong thing. So it's an interesting concept, how
that's something that I think that I've taken away from me racing and building road books. I love building road books, and I think the one thing that I've lacked in racing is to make it better and faster for me. I love objects, and I almost mark objects on a road book almost more than the route, because it's like an affirmation. I used to mark them in blue, I think. So, if I put a windmill or a gate or a ruin or a house or whatever, it's because it's in your sonora, you can go much faster because you can see that thing a long time off. I like, even in Sonora, when you have a cross or when you have a power line, any object, if I see the object 5Ks down the distance, I know that, whatever the notes are between these things, I'm going to end up there. So I can actually relax a bit and try and focus on riding and going a bit faster, because I know where I'm headed. Of course, I'm still looking at the road book, but it just gives you that bit of breathing room. So personally, as a road book maker, I love objects. I want that affirmation every time I cross an object. I want to know I'm on the right spot. And that's a quick glance down to see a burned out car or a ruin or a bus or whatever. It's bigger than the road. So it's much easier to affirm that I'm on the right track.
Yeah. And that's, and it's interesting. So that is for those, I haven't said it in a while, but for those playing the home game, that's the whole thing, is like, it's, once you get into and you start seeing the road books and how they are, and we talked about this with Tony Palandrani a few episodes ago, and it was basically you don't know where the waypoint is going to be. It's going to be on the inside of the wash or the outside or right in the middle, but then you start to see is like, okay, they put it in the inside because the inside was a smoother line. And then you catch that a couple more times and you go, okay, so this guy, the riding style is low energy. He's not a very aggressive rider and wants to expend less. So then you start to pick up on that and you go, okay, so I got to look for the easy way, more or less, and that's going to keep me on track. And so the same thing with that.
It's getting into the head of the roadbook maker. It's decoding the roadbook maker's thing, and what you say is 100% spot on. What I have found, and that is something that is really a great way to catch out riders. Not that I go for that. I don't try and catch out riders, but I've had this experience on a few races. Is that if you have different road book makers on one race, that really throws you out, because you just get into the vibe of, like you say, let's use this imaginary low energy road book or rider making the road book, and then after 3 days you throw in a road book that somebody else had made. I tell you, you must see how the guys get lost, because it's your subconscious. You just immediately assume that, okay, it's going to be the same. And it takes you about, I would say, 100 Ks to figure out that, whoa, this is not the same race anymore. This is not the same guy that made the previous 3 road books. So that is, as an event, if I ever do organize a rally, which is not something that I think is likely to do, I prefer the road books, I would definitely get different people to make different stages, because I think that would throw you out completely.
Yeah. And it's, and for those that, okay, if you've never done a road book and you're curious as to what that's like, is if you have a group of riding buddies, there's the one guy you don't let lead normally. And it's usually because one of two things. They either pick a pace that's like super, super fast, or they have this thing with where they just see like the side of the hill and they just want to go climb it. And next thing you know, you're going up some goat trail trying to get to the top of this hill. So
trying to get to the top.
Yeah. And so it's the same thing with road book makers. There's the guys that, really love fast, flowy, they want to stay, away from the rougher stuff. And then there's the guys that go, well, if you just carry a little bit of speed, you'll be all right. So it varies. And there's those little subtleties that are there. But, like you said, and I agree with you, and I think that that's just good road book etiquette, is that, hey, if you have, even if it's not a waypoint, but it's a Easter egg, it's a something that's solid, like, okay, I know for a fact I'm on the right track because I am literally just passing this lighthouse or this windmill or this cemetery, whatever it is, I think that that's just good road book etiquette making,
Yeah, no, I love it. The more info I can put on the road book, the better. I love coloring it in. We have stages. So our first stage is to just get the route, right? Then when we have the route, we have the directions, left, right, piste, road, tar, whatever. And then after that then comes the fun part, of just adding. It's like baking a cake, I guess, in different layers, But it's that last layer is the icing for me, is putting in all the extra info, because that's actually when you start. For me, when I enjoy the race, I like a detailed road book. I like as much info on it as possible. So that to me is my I enjoy that. I enjoy having all of the different concepts and things on it. And I always try and see what can I put on that's more than normal or more than average. I want to always put something extra in.
Yeah. And not only, and we'll go back. So, and once again, for the people, playing the home game, when you get out on road book and it has been decorated, like you're saying, everything is just to the T, the bushes, the rocks, the whatever feature it might be, you will appreciate that the first time you hit one of those notes, because you will arrive and it will look exactly like what it looks like on paper. And that's what we said earlier, right? Don't overthink it. Don't look at the road book and go, nope. You're going to figure it out as you move along. And as you get to it, you go, oh, this makes sense. But what you're saying there, after you finish decorating, once everything is done and you got the icing on it, that's the biggest deal. And that's the most rewarding for the people writing the road book, and especially the newer you are.
That is that feeling of knowing, you come from 20, 30 Ks of not being quite sure, am I on the right track? And you're doubting yourself all the time. And then you just hit that confirmation, and I think that's something that has been different for us, because we don't have Rally Comp or we don't have Stella here. You're always wondering, you're always, and it's actually, for me, it was a great way of learning and training, because you have to be on the road book. If there's stages where I'm like, okay, then there's a WPM here. So just to be safe, I'm going to just drive in a massive big circle because I have to get this WPM. You don't have waypoints opening. It's just, that's the waypoint. You just need to know. So then the road book becomes such an integral part of your navigation. And that feeling, I mean, I remember when it still happens to me. That's why I love it. That warm, fuzzy feeling of passing something after being in doubt for so long. And it's just like, yes, I've got it. I'm on the right track. It's like a sense of relief that you can't explain, but then also happiness and joy. And you're like, okay, my doubt is, and that's what you're saying about not doubting it, just go with it, because I think a lot of the times, especially myself personally, but it is something we try and kind of bring over at the roadbook camps, is don't ride the roadbook too much. Ride the terrain, look at the terrain, see where a guy would have ridden or where he would want you to ride, and then use the roadbook as a guide. But you can immediately see a guy that rides the terrain versus a guy that rides the roadbook, and even when I started, you think that it needs to be exact, it becomes a feeling, but you can't ride on exactly the meter because, I mean, you might be using a wheel sensor that's off, or you might be riding in a valley and your GPS distance is off. So you have to ride the terrain to know, to understand the road book. But I think many of us, including me, when I started, I rode tulip for tulip, and many times the turn or the feature or whatever would literally just be 200 meters down the road. But I'm on the Odo. Why isn't there a right turn here? It should be here. I spend 3 minutes looking for a right turn instead of just riding the terrain and actually just going 100 meters further and then, oh, here it is, So that's definitely something I think that comes with time, but that it's a good tip for people starting out is, ride the terrain as much as you ride the roadbook. Don't get stuck on the roadbook.
Yeah. I feel like, in thinking about it and picturing it, because I did run across that in my first roadbook is that you start to try and micromanage the distance and you get into trouble. And so
exactly that.
So if you ride the terrain and then it's a combination. You're riding the terrain you're looking for and like, oh, I see a fork in the road coming up. Does this make sense to where I'm at? And, okay, look down. All right. Yeah, that's actually, we're pretty close on the distance. Does the rest of the note line up? Okay. Yeah, this is the way. And so not only is it the first note when you arrive, which you usually, I stopped because I was like, oh my, this is, I am literally, this is the note, kilometers there, everything just lines up. It's like that moment, right? But then the next moment is when you start stringing notes together and you look down, you see the fork in the road, you say, oh, it's right. Okay, perfect. You don't even think about it. You just take that direction. And you start developing that flow, and that's that's the next feeling you get. It's like, okay, I've got this. So it definitely. And then the next feeling is that when you get lost, which inevitably, if you ride rally, it's going to happen. So don't panic. But it's just it's a whole different kind of thing, and you don't. This whole time, never is it about how fast will this bike go. And riding over your head. It's not, because you could literally, just like we said, you got to be paying attention to the terrain and what's coming at you. You're so hyper focused on not falling because you're riding at Mach 30, that you'll literally do Mach 30 right past the direction.
Exactly. No, I wish we had some data on how many of us overshoot turns, because you're like, oh, no, it's still coming up. Oh, it's passed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's crazy.
Yeah, by the time you rope the bike in, and it's never on a fast, wide open road. It's usually on the ones that are like this little, like, okay, you're going to go down this 2-track, big, hot off of a TDSPP, and then all of a sudden it's this like faint trail to the right, and good luck seeing that at 60, 70 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour. Good luck. But that's exactly what happens. And so it's a combination of everything. And that's, I think, what slows it down and makes it that much more interesting. Then it's not like I'm just looking for the next arrow. I pre-ran this. I know where I need to go. I'm just going to hold it wide open. You know, it's none of that. So
no, that's those nuggets we all live for.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think to get more people into the sport? What's your take on it?
Exposure, I would say definitely, Victor. As much exposure as it's like, and that's where people like you come in so importantly. You know, you play such a big role, because having a podcast, I can send it to a friend, I can send it to anybody, and they can be like, oh, this sounds interesting. So, you know, once again, it's great what you do, because that's number one is exposure. And part of exposure, I think, is making people understand what it is we do. That's a tough one for somebody that doesn't have the frame of reference of rally, because it is a niche sport. It's, you know, we fight for every rally rider to come into the fray. You know, it's not, and somebody doesn't take it up lightly. It's a big commitment. So definitely exposure, bringing down the cost, and I think with exposure goes making people realize it's not as hard as they think. So exposure and making it not easier, but clearing up some of the misunderstandings, to me, is part of exposure. And then the next thing is cost. I mean, the economic issues, I mean, it's all over the world. I mean, it's in South Africa, it's in the US, it's in Australia, it's in Europe. It's expensive. You know, it's difficult. And not even just rally riding, just to ride a bike these days is expensive. But at the same time, we have to live. You know, I wouldn't be able to survive if I can't ride motorbikes. You know, it's part of who I am. So if we can bring the cost down, and I know everybody, I mean, every event organizer I know in the US and in South Africa, they focused on doing this. So maybe we should shift it around and say, look, guys, anybody that owns a rally bike, you know, support the event organizers, you know, support Bar, support Kota, support Sonora. I mean, these guys all go out on a limb and they take terrible financial risks to put these events on, you know, in the hope that we support them. So I think coming together and you know, every event organizer does so much for the sport in his own way, you know, that our part should be to support them and to say to them, look, guys, we coming to the party. And because I don't know a single rally organizer that makes money. You know, it's not a sport that you can make money in. It's for the love of it. So the more we can support them, you know, I think the bigger the sport would get, you know. So a shout out to all the event organizers, you know, that goes through this and the stress, man. I mean, it's so much stress and worry to put on these events, you know. I think they age 10 years every year just from putting it up. So shout out to them for doing it, and maybe how we can grow the sport is to get our buddies to do it. And, you know, that's something that I've really picked up in the US is, for instance, the Canadians, you know. Every Canadian brings a friend to a rally. I don't know if you've noticed that, but the Canadians really grow the sport because they never come alone. They always bring a friend that's never done it. And then that friend brings somebody that's never done it. And I've always thought that that's such a beautiful way of doing it, because with every race they expose somebody new to it, you know. So maybe that's something we can take upon ourselves, is to say every time we enter an event, let's take a buddy with, even if we have to twist their arm a bit to come and do the event with us.
It would be really interesting to like say, okay, well, you know what, even if it's just as support, right? That they're coming and they're going to be the ones helping drive the rig and going to be hanging out in the bivouac, just so they can kind of see the culture. But then a step further would be the organizations saying, you know, I don't know. Okay, we'll just, if in a perfect world, right? If the organization said, if you have a friend that's interested in riding, we've created a 20-kilometer stage that they can ride and you guys can do, or they're welcome to go on this shakedown stage with you before the rally gets started, right? Because
like a pre-run stage almost, yeah.
Exactly. And then that way, and they have that availability. It's like, hey, you know what? If you're new to the rally sport, I've seen it. I know that Sonora Rally does it, and it's like, okay, for the beginners, the people just getting into this, we're going to do a navigation class. We're going to go over some basics, and open that up to the people that are interested in learning how to navigate. Right. Even if you're just the support crew or whoever it is, that way it gives a chance to see it. And you're helping grow that side of it. I mean, to the organization, it's, the only thing better than one entry is two, because now it makes it, I mean, obviously there's got to be some money involved because of the logistics and everything that it takes. But, the organization's got to see it like that. Well, this is my reinvestment in, because I'm going to help create another customer for myself. So exactly. Everybody wins. But yeah, so like you said earlier, and that's something that's like, okay, if we all get around the table and say, okay, here's what we want from the organizations, is open it up so that on a shakedown stage where it's something that the riders are going to use anyway that are participating, and if they got a buddy that is, make the road book available to them. And if you're going to have some kind of introductory, or you should do some kind of introductory class, there at the event, to reiterate and focus on the racers, but allow people that are wanting to learn, allow them to be the ones in the back of the room and see a little bit more about it. And again, it's just exposure. That's all it is.
Yep. No, exposure is the big thing, I think, definitely.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe we're going to have to figure out how we can get these guys on it.
Well, hopefully they're listening, and maybe we should have a US South Africa rally convention somewhere, where we all get together and kick some ideas around. I think that will be pretty cool. Yeah. Maybe we should have it in Namibia, in the dunes there. We're planning some with the roadbook camps. It's all conceptual at this point, but we're looking at making a international circuit with the roadbook camp. So we'll have Sonora as a training option, and then we'll have the Karoo, and then we're looking at bringing online Namibia for the guys that really want to do some sand. We're looking at Dubai, we're looking at Peru, so that we have almost a roadbook camp on every continent. Nice. Maybe we'll have to include Australia as well. I don't know how that'll go, but we need to, that's kind of the long-term goal and plan. And then, people can experience different cultures. Because I also think that was the big thing about the Dakar, right? I mean, it wasn't just about the race in the old days. It was about, and even today with Saudi, it's exposing racers and people to different cultures. It's not just the race. And I think that's an aspect that's getting lost a lot of the times with a lot of the new rallies, whereas you want to travel, you want to experience cultures, you want to eat different food, you want to do all of those things because that's why we do it, is experiencing something different. So definitely, if we can start having guys join each other on different continents for different trainings, I think that'll make it super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you want to be a professional student, you're going to see the world. If you figure out, when the classes are going on and all that stuff, you're going to be able to see the world. And that's the whole thing with rally. So you could go to the Dakar, you're going to get all of this culture, but every rally that you go to is going to be a different culture in a different place, and you're going to get to see different things. And on a motorcycle and with road books, which is usually a road book takes the path less traveled,
exactly.
You're really, really going to see some stuff.
Yep.
So.
No, I've seen places on road books that I would never ever see as an ordinary tourist. So, and road book makers want to show off the best that there is. So you're guaranteed that you're going to see something a normal person or normal tourist is never going to see.
Yeah.
And that's super cool. That's worth the money.
Oh, absolutely. Well,
it's a memory. It's a lifetime memory.
Oh, I'll never forget. It was when we were on our way down to Catavenia, and Steve Henschfeld, Honda A-Team rider in Baja, partner to Johnny Campbell on the bike, he comes in, and it was always, I always ask the same questions, it's, hey, how did it go? How was the stage and all of that stuff? And for him to say that I've been down here racing for years, a decade, I'm sure, and I've never been down that road or down some of these roads means a lot. I mean, that's saying a lot to Scotty's effort in finding these roads and talking to the ranchers and the people, the landowners, and making it happen. But so that just is like one more drop in that bucket, or one more experience, of how much different it is as a rally racer and the roads and the things that you travel and see than just the guy that takes signs up for the normal adventure tour and the normal stuff. Exactly.
And it gives you that edge, man. You get to say you're a rally racer.
Yeah. Then there's that.
It's like, that's always a nice little feeling. Yeah. I didn't go on an adventure ride, I went to race a rally. Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah. And then when they ask you to drive that and really drive it home, when they ask you, well, what's that about? And you just pull up a picture of a road book and then they go, oh. Because they don't know what it means, but it just looks very intimidating.
Yeah, we actually had on, I think our second Karoo road book camp, what I did was I actually printed an example of a road book on a T-shirt. Mm-hmm. And I was like, now each of you are ambassadors for the sport. You have to wear this T-shirt, and you can sit in a restaurant or in a bar or at a socialized event, and you can explain to people exactly what a road book is, because you're wearing it. Mm-hmm. You can show them this is a tulip, this is a danger, this is a this, and that's And people are interested in it. They like something different.
Yeah. Yeah. They just don't, like I said, but if you look at it and if you look at a road book and then unroll it and just start staring at it, it's very hard, but you have to understand that it'll make sense when you get there.
Definitely.
Yeah. Nice. So cool. All right.
That's a good slogan, man. That's such a cool slogan. It'll make sense when you get there. Yeah. I love it.
So just enjoy the ride. Hold on, let me get the pen. That's going on a T-shirt.
Listen, man, thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to, are you coming to Kota? Are you coming to Baja? Are you coming to Sonora? Where am I going to see you?
Baja and Sonora right now. Kota will be probably for next year. And I made all these plans and I just didn't get a chance to get the time off for that one.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to see you at Baja and at Sonora. I really want to encourage anybody that's listening, guys. Please, if you've always wanted to do a rally, you have time. Like, enter Baja or enter Sonora. Just do it. Like, just take the plunge, take the leap, and we'll see you guys there. Even if it is for support for your mates or something, just come and do it, and let's see how it goes. I'm super excited. I can't wait. It's like I'm coming back now from a year of not racing with my injury, so I can't wait to come and join you guys on that side of the pond a bit and tear it up in the sand. So
yeah, come on over. It's summer here.
I will. I'm here for the chrono. We're leaving. So my daughter's in school in New Hampshire, so it's going to be. We're back in September, so we're just finishing the chrono, and then I'm doing 2 or 3 races, or no, not 2 or 3, 1 race here, which is actually cool. It's a duathlon. It's the first duathlon of its kind in the world, where you cycle and you ride dirt bike. Nice. So. It's going to be interesting. Nice. So I'm doing that, and then we're heading back there. So, yeah, we'll definitely catch you in Baja, Victor.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy your day, and we will see you soon.
Great stuff, man. Thanks for everything that you do. Stay well.
Of course. Thank you. You too.
Bye.
All right. See ya. All right. So there you have it. That was Willem Avenant out of South Africa, talking about some of the adventures out there and what they're doing for the rally sport. And I'm looking forward to meeting them out here. So we almost met 2 years ago, right before the whole pandemic started. And then we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get back across, and we decided, play it safe. And he ended up working with Mike Johnson and running the rally comp stuff there and helping them out. So it worked out very, very well. But either way, a lot of good stuff on today's show. So I hope you guys save this one, favorite it, and share it. There's definitely a lot of gold in there, and like I said, and what we talked about in this episode. If you're looking at a road book, just forget about it. It'll make sense when you get there, and in the meantime, just enjoy the ride, getting to each note and having fun. So, as always, if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out. Send me a direct message on Instagram, and I'm more than happy to help you guys get started, or at least get you pointed in the right direction. So that's the game plan. Anyway, all right. In the meantime, don't forget, keep it shiny side up. All right, that is the wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram Chasing Waypoints _official, and of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.